welcome to the lecture. I hope you guys are all doing really well and having a lovely holiday so far. Well, I mean, as lovely as it can be when you're preparing for the HSC. But I hope you guys are enjoying that. I hope you're appreciating the fact that, it's only a couple more weeks to go and then you're done. So hopefully that's exciting. Yeah, today we're going to be focusing on revising all aspects of the syllabus so that you guys feel ready to go ahead and conquer the HSC. So welcome. Before we just get started, I'll just quickly introduce you to all that we have to offer here at ATANotes. So you can access all of these free resources at our website, atanotes.com. So that includes study notes. If you're looking for any last minute study notes, I think that's the place to go. Lectures, discussions. So lectures, we've got the lectures on this week, so attend all that are relevant to you. We also have Head Start lectures happening, which is would sort of focus on the earlier content of the term. So if you want some revision on that, feel free to attend those lectures as well. We've got discussion forums, newsletters, ATA calculator. That's going to be pretty important in these next couple of weeks. And then articles as well, that are written by our tutors, and they include everything from study tips to like uni guides and stuff, so definitely check that out. So welcome to today's lecture, and like I said, we are going to be revising English Standard today, so let's get started without further ado. My name is Aditi and today I'll be taking you through the content. I graduated in 2021 as Dux with an ATA of 95, and the subjects that I tutor are English Extension, English Advanced, PD HPE, and Biology. So I tutor English Advanced, PD, and Biology at CheatSmart. I'm currently at the University of Sydney. Please excuse me, I've got a bit of a viral happening, so if I cough a bit, yeah, just excuse me. So I'm studying at the University of Sydney a Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Advanced Studies in Medical Science. So my two majors are Medical Science and Political Economy. Generally love reading, good shows, and sunny days, and it's shaping to be a pretty sunny summer this time around. It's been pretty hot, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it, as I'm sure many of you are as well. Summer, beaches, this cricket if you're into cricket, because cricket's summer of cricket's always nice. It's not the Ashes though, which is a bit sad, but we've still got cricket and tennis as well. Yeah, Australia Open. So yeah, anyways, lots happening. So you have a lot of incentive to smash out those HSC exams and then enjoy the summer afterwards. So today we are going to be focusing on revision, and specifically we're going to look at exam skills, practice questions, and sample responses. So that's to help enhance your writing and to really hone in on those last like little skills that you sort of need now to finalize everything as you walk into the exam. So essentially what we will be doing is that we are going to firstly focus on revising the common module. Then I'll what we'll do is I won't make it a break as such, but I'm definitely going to spend some time. I'll be live answering the questions actually, so I'll be giving you a chance to like type out any questions and get any common mod questions in before we move on to module A, B, and C, and then we will continue focusing on questions. So I'll be answering questions throughout today's lecture, so please ask as many questions as you like. What's really important is that just a couple of things that I should have sort of mentioned a slide earlier, but I'll mention it now, is that firstly, this lecture is recorded, so I'll be live answering your questions, and this is a pre-recorded lecture. I'll be live, that's kind of the main thing. You'll be able to access this lecture after it's over, and you'll also be able to access the slides just underneath where this video is playing. So it should be like probably your left hand corner down down the bottom, and it's definitely giving me a lot of like a YouTuber vibe. Like, subscribe my channel, guys. No, yes, it should be, the slide should be down there, and you'll find the recording on this page on which you're viewing the live recording right now. Yeah, and I'll be live answering any questions, like I said. So let's get started. And remember, no question's a silly question. Please ask as many questions as you like, but obviously be respectful. It's a learning environment. Everyone's learning. So yeah, so just be respectful. That's kind of it. So let's get started. What you get out of today's lecture is up to you, right? So I want you to focus specifically on asking any questions that you have, jotting down notes as I talk through stuff, because I always tend to like talk off the screen a lot, so add own little pieces of information here and there as they come to me, so you won't find like everything's written on the slide, because I'll be adding a lot on top of it. So definitely take some notes down for things that resonate with you. This is the last lecture series before your HSC, so ask questions. That's so important, and like I said, I will be live answering them. Remember, it is anonymous. You can ask questions anonymously, but just, yeah, please make sure that you're being respectful. And no questions dumb question at all. You know, the question that you have, probably everyone else or many people, other people have it as well. So ask. I've always been told that, well, what was the quote? I forgot the quote, but basically the vibe is that, it's, you're smarter if you ask questions. If you're smart if you ask questions, even if it's dumb question, because it's smarter than someone who does not ask questions at all. So yeah, ask questions. That's not the exact quote, by the way. I just sort of made that up, but that was the general vibe behind that, is to ask questions. If you're unsure about anything, ask. Okay, so let's get started with paper 1 revision. So as hopefully you know by now, after doing the trials and practice papers sorry, and practice papers as well, is that there are 2 sections of paper 1. We've got section 1, which is going to focus on unseen text and short answers. 20 marks, right? Questions can range from anywhere from 2 to 10 marks, and you kind of want to spend about 45 minutes on it. Section 2 is our essay. You just have to write a single essay on your text, on your prescribed text. There is no related text that's needed. The syllabus does mention, studying a related text, but that is only for like class assignments. That's only for formative assignments. It's not for the HSC. So you're only writing an essay on your one prescribed text. Again, spending about 45 minutes there. And that's also worth 20 marks. So when you approach this paper, you have an hour and 30 minutes. You're given 45 minutes for each section. So the way look, you can either do it back to front or front to back. There are only 2 questions really. So see what works best for you. Section 2 essay first, and then section 1 working backwards for most marks to the least can definitely maximize your marks, because you're like you're spending time and you're sort of working sequentially from the 6 mark down to a 3 marker. So that means you have you're maximizing your marks essentially. But that's one way to go, or if you just want to go back to front, that's all good as well. So see what works best for you, and the best way to know what works for you is to actually sit down and do practice papers. Try these different strategies out. I know for me personally, doing it sequentially worked the best. I did all my papers sequentially actually, until I decided to like leave questions and then come back to it. But yeah, did them all sequentially. But for some people I know, doing like back to front works so much better. So see what works best for you. Okay, so where to start with common module essay revision? So I reckon the best place to start is to first revise the language plus key terms that are in the rubric, right? So knowing the rubric is so important, because the rubric is your best friend. Undoubtedly, that is, one of the key elemental truths of HSC, is that the rubric, the syllabus, is your best friend. With English, they're not going to ask you anything from outside the rubric. They can't. They're bound by the rubric. So you want to know the rubric. And, if and what it like knowing the rubric and then utilizing those terms and utilizing those frameworks in your essays shows the marker that you've actually engaged with the text the way they wanted you to engage with it. So start with the rubric, then respond to any and all questions you get your hands on in form of essay plans. There are so many questions available online, and luckily now you guys have 4 past HSC questions to work with. One more than every year. Yeah, one more than the year before you, 2 more than the year before that. So you've got 4 papers to work with, and that's a pretty solid number to begin with. And then you can find past papers from like different trial exams. There are also questions on the ATA Notes forums. If you search up Module A questions or Mod B questions, you'll find a whole list, a huge extensive list of questions on the ATA Notes forum. I actually just used it the other day. It would say that we've shifted to a new website, but the post is still there, and there are so many questions. They're text specific questions as well, so definitely check those questions out. Practice essay writing, that's so important. So once you've looked at the questions, once you've formed essay plans are good to begin with, but they're not going to get you the whole way. You actually have to sit down and write the whole essay out. I would recommend beginning, hopefully by now you've already written like individual 40-minute papers, 45 minutes for common mod essay. So now as you're getting closer to the exams, I would recommend doing the whole paper in one sitting. So do the whole paper 1 in an hour and 30 minutes. So the more you mimic that exam environment, the more confident you'll feel, the more prepared you will be. Finally, receive feedback. That's so important. There's no point in just doing the practice questions and stuffing them into your drawers and being like, okay, I've done it, So definitely get feedback on them. Send it to your teachers, send it to your, ask your friends to look over it, ask older siblings to look over it. They may, be like, oh, whatever at first, but they'll do it. And I say that as an older sibling. I feel like, yeah, whatever. And then just do it. So get some feedback, all right? Any feedback is better than no feedback, so get some feedback. But everything, the key here is like knowing what you're going to get, knowing the language and the key terms in the rubric. That's so important. So like I said, NESA's bound to the rubric, so they can only ask questions from the rubric. With common module for questions, they are not going to deviate from from text and human experiences. They're not going to deviate from individual collective experiences, storytelling, the power of storytelling, paradoxes and anomalies. Like that's the sort of the gist of the question. Module A, it's language, culture, and identity. They're not going to deviate from that. They're going to ask you questions that are specific to those elements and their portrayal within text. And finally, Module B, close study of literature, they're going to, with that one's a bit hard because they can kind of ask you anything about the text, but that essentially that's what the rubric is, the fact that they can ask you about the significance of the text. So in order to do that, you've had to look at the text in a lot of detail. So yeah, they're bound by the syllabus, so make sure you highlight key terms and phrases in the rubric. This is super important, especially for common module and module A. Think about how you would argue with these ideas through the lens of this idea, and would you have to slightly tweak the main idea as well. So let's have a look at the 4 rubric concepts for common mod that you should know like the back of your hand. So individual and collective experiences, human qualities and emotions, anomalies, paradoxes and inconsistencies, and role of storytelling. That's the fundamental gist of the rubric for you. Like if you know these in good detail, if you have linked these back to your text, you have a very solid foundation. So audience impact is again really important. So students tend to miss this, but my key is that audience impact, it should be in your introduction. The last sentence of your intro should be an audience impact. And within the rubric, actually no, I'll just wait because I'm skipping ahead. Give me one sec. Okay, so audience impact is key. Included in your introduction, the last sentence of your introduction, included in the last sentences of your paragraphs, and also when you do your analysis. So the my key for analysis is QTEL, quote, technique, effect, link. So within the link part of my analysis, I like to link back to the question, and I also like to link back to the audience. So don't just squeeze in your audience impact at the end of every paragraph. Bring it into your analysis, bring it into your paragraphs, and make sure that you have that audience impact at the end of your intro. Last sentence of the intro, audience impact. So why so you must address why your composer is saying things, right? What do they want to achieve out of it? And this is how the syllabus has framed audience impact. Composers are doing it so that audiences can see the world differently. Composers are doing it so audiences so that they can challenge assumptions. They're doing it so that they can ignite new ideas, and finally catalyze personal reflection. So with every questions, you can choose whichever one of these audience impacts you want to work with, and then you want to include it consistently throughout your essay. Don't forget about that audience impact. Really, really important. Okay, knowing what to write. Give me 1 sec. Let me just drink a bit of water. Alright. Once I can close the lid properly. Okay, so knowing what to write is so important. And the only way you'll be able to really smash out the question is if you know all elements of it. If you are able to deconstruct all. Sorry, let me close my window. Okay, close my window. Sorry about that. All right. What was I saying? The only way you can really answer the question properly is if you break down all elements of the question. So each question will contain or some of the following ingredients, and it is your job to identify them. Firstly, it's going to have a concept from the rubric. Secondly, it is going to generally will have a prescribed focus that relates to the concepts from the rubric, and finally an audience impact statement. So concept from the rubric and audience impact concept from the rubric's always going to be there. Audience impact, you sort of make up yourselves based on the question and like the tonality of the question. In terms of prescribed focus, like 99% of the time it's there. Sometimes it can be like linked to the rubric if it's a very simple statement plugged out of the rubric. That's only when you will find out how to find a prescribed focus, but otherwise prescribed focus or focuses are generally there. So let's have a look. So we've got this question, creating a judgment from the question. So let's have a look. How has voice been employed in the text to ignite new ideas on individual experiences? So concept here, straight from the rubric, individual experiences. So if you don't know your rubric, it would be, and especially if it's like not an obvious link back to the rubric, if it's more like storytelling or reflecting particular lives and cultures, or if it's worded a bit differently, it'd be hard to tell. So make sure you know your rubric. So yeah, concept, then prescribed focus here is voice, because they want to see essentially how this main key element of voice is shaping the text. That's a prescribed focus. And then audience impact here is igniting new ideas. Question generally, like they can say the audience impact specifically, or they may not say it specifically. That's totally up to like us to choose. So let's have a look at this next question. So here we are. We're creating a judgment now from that. So individual experiences are projected through the voices that have been manipulated in the text. In turn, composers are able to ignite new ideas and perspectives on the human experience for the reader. And that's to sort of show you how we then want to include all of these elements within our judgment. Make sure that your thesis or your like topic sentence for an unseen questions, it answers the question directly. Don't just repeat the question back, because that's not very effective. That's not telling the marker anything. So yeah, make sure that you are answering the question, that you're breaking down the question and answering it and building on it. So let's have a look. Yeah, try to think of your theses in 2 units. The first tackles the concept in prescribed focus, and the second addresses audience impact. This is a good way to like break it up and to and to not to not have like a super long thesis, because and that's like for the whole essays, really avoid long sentences, because long sentences essentially for a marker when they're reading it, like halfway through the sentence, and this is anyone, if you read a super long sentence, um after you've read it, ask yourself, what was the first half of the sentence about? You wouldn't know it, because that's just the way our brains work. Super long sentence, you lose focus towards the end, and it's hard to retain that. So just make, and super long sentences can also get confusing. They can also lose meaning as well. So just short, sharp sentences. Okay, so let's have a look at this question. Alrighty. So, explain how boomerangs in a thunderstorm represents an intense moment. So, this is from the 2019 paper. So, what is the concept? We know that the prescribed focus is intense moment, and the audience impact is also something that you choose. So, let's have a look. So, essentially, with this question, because an intense moment can like link back to emotions, let's say that a concept is human qualities and emotion, like it's human emotion that arise as a result of experiences and qualities. And then the audience impact again could be anything, but then in this moment, and this is based on like, after you read the text as well, so make sure you read the text when you sort of also making this judgment. So audience impact here can be catalyzing personal reflection. So this question is from the 2019 paper, the 2019 HSC paper. Okay, now again, it's up to you to decide what is most appropriate to enable you to construct your response and to construct your response and to respond to the question. Okay, so here we are. Here's a judgment statement. So text 3 explores how moments of emotional vulnerability can be intensely memorable through showcasing the profound experience shared between the persona and Uncle Steve. Watson catalyzes and generates personal reflection within his reader. So this is now putting everything together. So remember, like the golden rule for any of your topic sentences or thesis statement is to always break down the question first and then answer it directly in the topic sentence or thesis. So that's what a judgment statement looks like, right? This is what a good judgment statement looks like. If, or rather, a judgment statement that just repeated the question, that was not very effective, would just be, and this is something that we've seen, a lot of students, like, it's a common mistake, is to say, for example, text 3, boomerangs in a thunderstorm represents an intense moment to showcase human experiences. Something like that, just very vague, as I'm sure you can sort of tell, in comparison to this, right? That was very vague, that did not sort of illuminate, what was the intense moment or what was the human experience as a result. But this judgment statement, and I might just get my trusty highlighter out. So, where are we? Okay, but this question, we can clearly see this is the intense moment, emotional vulnerability, and it's intensely memorable. And this is, the showcasing of this experience is allowing readers to catalyze and generate personal reflections. And that's what and that's what the text is doing. All right, cool. Let's move on then. Please ignore my highlighting. I really enjoy doing it because, it gives me something to do as I'm talking through the stuff. So I love doing it, but I'm not the best at making straight lines on the cursor, so please excuse me. Alright, I'm just gonna grab a tissue if that's okay. Give me 1 sec. Alrighty. Okay, so let's have a look now. Reading time. So as you would know, you've got 10 minutes reading time in the paper, in paper 1, and then unfortunately only 5 minutes in paper 2. But with paper 1, best strategies to make the most of your reading time are firstly read the questions. So before you read your unseen text, read the question. Don't read the text first, because that way you're just reading the text. But if you read the question and then read the text, then you're like subconsciously trying to find links between the question and the text. So make sure that you read the question first and then you read the text. Deconstruct each question in your head. Use that strategy. Rubric focus, prescribed focus, audience impact. That's it. Those 6 words: rubric focus, prescribed focus, and audience impact, right? And then decide the order you want to attempt the paper. This is something you kind of want to already know before you walk into the exam room, because you should have done enough practice to know what works best for you. But let's say you walk in and the question's just a bit different. Maybe you plan to do section 1 first and then section 2, but then you walk in and you think it's probably going to take you a bit longer to complete section 2, so you do section 2 first, finish it off, and then move on to section 1. That's okay as well. Read the unseen text afterwards, and then mentally elect the examples you'll be using for short answer questions. So as soon as your reading time is over, make sure you underline those examples, because you'll have them ready to go. So just underline them. Take that minute before you jump into writing to underline all your examples, so that way you can come back to them. But the key is to always read the questions first and then look at your unseen text. So concept statement. Okay, structuring short answer questions. So how do we do that? Remember, we start off with the concept statements. That's a judgment statement, basically. So we respond to the question and we introduce a main idea or human experience that we'll be covering. So make sure you don't just repeat back the question, you elaborate on it, you respond to the question once you've broken it down, and then you introduce the main human experience that you'll be talking about. And then you can elaborate on that to state how in the piece you see this idea or human experience being developed. Then we need an analysis. So analysis is so important. Just giving a quote and saying it showcases this human experience is not analysis. The key that I like to use for analysis that personally really worked well for me and made sure that I didn't cut any corners was Q T E. There you go. Oh, okay, perfect. It's actually better to write with the highlighter than to highlight. Okay, so QTE. Q stands for quote, T stands for technique, E stands for effect, and L stands for link. So you have a quote or your piece of evidence, if it's like an image or something, then you have the technique in that specific quote or image, then the effect of the technique. So make sure that the effect of the technique, that the effect and the technique link. Don't just give a very generic effect, for example, the simile showcases the idea of the simile showcases the human experience of belonging. Something like that's not very it's not very effective, is it? Because it's not even linking properly. So make sure you link the technique to the effect. So let's say the simile, and I need to think of a simile here actually first. Let's say just trying to think of a simile. Okay, she shone like the moon. Very, and I'm sure most of you are snickering at that simile. But let's say, okay, she's that's a tongue twister. She shone like the moon. So let's say that was the quote, and the human experience is personal fulfillment. Okay, or let's say achievement or something. It's the human human experience of resilience. Someone's achieved something, it's a poem, and then the quote is she's shown like the moon. Just stick with it. It's an example. So something like that. The analysis could be, for example, this is evident in the simile she's shown like a moon, which compares the individual's brilliance and their brilliance and their and then the fulfillment to the brightness of the moon, to showcase the natural to showcase the natural beauty of the moment, right? Something like that, where you're actually linking the simile to the effect, and make sure that the technique and the effect actually link. So that's that. And then audience impact as well. So relate the audience effect to the syllabus, for example, igniting new ideas. Q equals n minus 1. So Q equals n minus 1 is a little formula that we like to use here at TuteSmart. And that's basically quotes. So the number of quotes that you're using equal to the number of marks minus 1. So if it's a 4 marker, n is 4, and so Q is going to be 3. So use 3 quotes in a 4 marker response. If it's a 5 marker, use 4 quotes. If it's a 3 marker, use 2 quotes. Now, if it's a 5 plus marker, so if it's a 6 marker or a 7 marker, you essentially want to write a little mini essay. So what that means is just organize it like a mini essay. So intro, 2 body paragraphs, and like a 1 sentence conclusion. So 1 sentence intro, 2 max, and then 1 sentence conclusion and 2 body paragraphs. So that's for 6 marks. Finally, linking repeat response to the question and audience impact. Really, really important. So that's this bit over here. Okay, perfect. Very happy with how that turned out. That's much better than the straight line. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so the number of quotes and techniques that you're using, like I said, Q equals n minus 1. And that's maths and English. Yeah, so just talked you through that. Longer marks, like I said, 6 markers plus, and that's generally for either comparing like 2 texts, so those are usually the questions that are like 6 marker plus, or if you are exploring one text from 2 different angles, that's also a 6 marker. Generally, it's also 6 marker or above that. But yeah, mini essays mini essays for that. So that doesn't mean you're writing like super long, like proper essays. It just means the structure mimics like an essay. So 1 line intro, 1 line conclusion, and 2 body paragraphs in between. Here we are. Here's the structure for you guys. So 6 markers plus opening sentence, body 1, which can be either first text if it's a comparison, or theme 1 if it's just a one text. And then you add in these quotes. So see 3, 4 marks. So you just, if it's a 6 mark, for example, you'd only want to have, let's say, 2 quotes per 6 or 7 marks. 2 quotes per paragraph is more than enough. If it's 8 or 9 marks, then you want to add in the third one. So it'd be like 3 quotes per paragraph. And then concluding synthesis, which reinforces the judgment that you've made. Okay, let's move on then. So let's have a look at this exemplar. Explain how text 1 ignites new ideas about power. So here's text 1. It is a fist. So you can see that there is a fist and there are people inside the fist. So it's a 3 marker. Take a moment to think about this. What are some techniques that you can see here? Maybe pop some in the chat. What are some techniques that you can see here? Give you I was going to say 1 minute, but that's going to be too long. I'll give you like 30 seconds. Right. It's not quite 30 seconds, but let's make it 15 seconds. Okay, cool. So, some techniques that we see here include depth, color, symbolism of fingers being selves, lines, shading, as you can see, sizing. So, look at the contrast of like the hand, the size of the hand versus the people inside the cells, body language, and gaze or lack thereof. So, let's have a look. How does this text ignite new ideas about power? Now, when a question says, how does it do it? You have to mention in your, like, judgment statement or your concept statement, what visual devices are being used, and then what does that then say about power. So if you look at this if you look at this quote, if you look at this question, break it down. What is the rubric focus here? Explain how text one ignites new ideas about power. So the rubric focus, especially then based on the image as well, could be individual versus collective experiences. The prescribed focus is power, and then the audience impact is the audience impact is that it ignites new ideas. So let's have a look. Through contrast and dejected body language, text one demonstrates the limitation of internal power. So you can see right here that we've got a concept statement, so it's answering the how, and that's through contrast and dejected body language, and it provides commentary on power, so it's specifically focusing on the limitation of internal power. And then we elaborate on that. So text one represents the internal struggle finding power from within while still facing personal battles. So we further unpack the commentary on power, and we explain the idea of what exactly do we mean by internal power. This is most chiefly evident in the effective symbolism of the fist, a conventional symbol of power which is deliberately contrasted with the cells in the subject's fingers, the symbol of the enclosure and entrapment of personal battles. Evidently, the battle between internal conflict and exerting power is demonstrated to the viewer. So here we have our evidence, so it's the symbolism, and we have our evidence, which is the symbolism of the fist, and then that's the technique as well. Symbolism and contrast is a technique, and then finally we've got the audience impact and the link back to the main idea. So we do the same thing for the second quote. This is again reiterated in the body language of the subjects trapped within the within the cells as they appear dejected and downcast, further symbolic of this struggle to the viewer. So this is a second piece of evidence, is the people in the cells, and then we say that the technique here is their body language, their dejected body language. And we finish off with our audience impact statement. Therefore, text one expertly utilizes contrast and body language to demonstrate the limitation of internal power to viewers. Okay, so let's have a look at an extended response. How do we actually approach an extended response? So the essay will require you to demonstrate your understanding of the module using your prescribed text. So remember, with all of your modules, you are using your text as a way to show links, you're using the prescribed text a way to show how you've interacted with the syllabus. So it's not you're not actually studying the text, but you're studying how the text is representing and bringing to light text and how it's bringing to light human experiences. That's what you're doing. In module A, you're not studying your text, you're studying how the text is bringing to light the role of language, culture, and identity in shaping ideas. So always keep that at the back of your mind. So when it comes to revising common module, what do? Remember, steps for your introductions. First thing, thesis has to answer the question. It can be 1 or 2 sentences long. Make sure it's not just repeating the question, you're actually answering it. Answer and elaborate. Introduce your text in relation to the module. Introduction of context and how the composer has been influenced by their context to say what they're saying. And then audience impact. One key thing here is to include the themes that your body paragraphs will be built on in this part here. Now, if you want, you could also include it in number 3 as well. That's totally okay too, but it just works better when you include it after you sort of introduce the text. Okay, moving on then. So let's write an introduction to this question. The truth is always something that is told, not something that is known. If there were no speaking or writing, there would be no truth about anything. There would only be what is. So that's a quote from Susan Sontag. So to what extent does this statement reflect the way truth has been represented in your prescribed text? Let's have a look. Now here you're going to use both the quote and the question to answer this, to break it down. Alright, so concept here is the role of storytelling, right? So that's from the rubric. It says the truth is always something that is told, not something that is known. If there are no speaking or writing, there is no truth about anything. So that's part of the rubric. It's saying that storytelling is reflecting particular lives and cultures. Um, Prescribed focus is in the question here, the way truth has been represented. And finally, audience impact. Um, so with the audience impact, look, it could be it could be here, so where it says how the text is reflecting the way truth has been shaped. So you could say it asks you to reconsider your understanding of truth. You could always say challenges assumptions about our understanding of truth, or it ignites new ideas about truth as well. Any of them work, but as long as you kind of link it back to the main idea here of truth. So let's have a look. Here we go. We have a band 6 sample. So in Billy Elliot, Stephen Daldry utilizes storytelling to perpetuate the truth that masculinity is undefined as he challenges masculine stereotypes and conventions to audiences. So you can see that we are linking. So we've got all parts of the syllabus there, right? We've got storytelling, how he's using storytelling, what he's actually like what he is representing by exploring truth. So he's talking specifically about the truth that masculinity is undefined. And he's doing that to challenge stereotypes and conventions to his audience. So in your thesis, you have to address all three of these. So I'm going to write it here. Address A in your thesis. In your thesis. There you go. Alrighty, so all three have to come in your thesis. Daldry's 2000 drama Billy Elliot emerged in a time of both strict, rigid ideas of masculinity and liberating values and beliefs. Through the human experience of rebellion, determination, and sexual expression, Daldry uses storytelling as a vehicle to challenge masculine ideas. Therefore, through the display of these human experiences, Daldry actively challenges pre-existing limitations on the masculine identity and reveals the truth of them being outdated and undefined to viewers. So we've got relevant terminology from the rubric. So you can see it. Hey, storytelling challenging perspectives. We are introducing the text context so that elevations can be made later to individual arguments. So you can see that here. So you've got context there in terms of how, it's written at a time there of both strict, rigid ideas and also liberating values and beliefs. We introduce our key human experiences. That's really important. Do not forget your themes. And you want to have like that 3-theme paragraph. That's really important. And finally, considering the audience impact. There we are. Okay, moving on then. Writing bodies, step by step. So, concept plus themes. This is your topic sentence that links the theme to the question. So link theme to question. There you go. Okay, so you do that and then you elaborate, then you go through your analysis. So this is where we are continually addressing why the composer is showing these human experiences, right? And as in this way, and specifically, we are relating that back to the context. So we have to make sure that we are specifically linking our analysis back to the question, and we're linking it back to the audience impact. That's really, really important. And you want to have at least 3 pieces of analysis. That's really important. And then argument summary and audience impact, linking it all together. So same thing with your analysis here. Do not forget QDEO. Keep using that. Or if you've got another mnemonic that you like to use, that's perfectly okay too. As long as you have like the quote, the technique, the effect, and the link, and you've got all, for them, you've done it. So just make sure you focus on that. Let's move on then. So number of examples between 3 to 5 examples under exam condition is acceptable, but you have to analyze the techniques. You have to analyze it properly for it to count, right? And you have to have equal amount across all body paragraphs. If you're going to stick with three across um, each of the paragraphs. Like, and this is where quality this is where quality versus quantity comes in as well. So there's no point in having like 5 quotes and then not going through them, like just like listing them or using them as words. So this shows Billy that whatever the quote is, and then you move on. That's not analysis. That's just like explaining. That's just listing. So there's no point in doing 5 quotes that are all like that. Instead, do 3 quotes where you actually go through the whole quote technique, effect, link, and you actually analyze what is happening. So remember, your essay is an argument. It is not an explanation. So you don't want to explain stuff. Don't retell stuff. Just get straight to the point with your analysis. Moving on then. So there we go. Biggest mistake in body paragraph is actually not analyzing or making a judgment, only explaining. So that is so important. Go, if you think you may be doing this, have a go at rereading your work again and ask yourself, is this telling me anything about the story? If your answer is yes, if your work is rather explaining what happened in the story, then you have been explaining. You have not been analyzing as such. We need to provide commentary on the human experience concept of emotion, and you have to justify your argument by relating it to the composer's context and also their purpose. Another big mistake is not addressing audience impact or not addressing it until the end. Again, we don't want to do that. Address it in QTE. Once I can get that to work. Here we go. E and L. So introduce it in the link part of the question. And finally, not relating back to rubric terms. That is also something that we do not want. You have to relate back to rubric terms. Okay, so writing body paragraphs step by step. So here we've got a question. Empathy grants us the ability to understand challenging human experiences. To what extent do you agree with the statement? So the concept here can be human qualities and emotions, because it's saying that empathy is a quality, so being empathetic. So we can say it's talking specifically about that qualities. Prescribed focus is challenges. Now it doesn't say challenges as such, but you can see that the prescribed focus here can be challenges and empathy. And then audience impact, seeing the world differently, and themes can include prejudice, neglect, and grief. So themes is essentially linking back to your own themes from your text. So let's have a look at this. Within our prejudices lie an untapped potential to empathize with others. Slessor subverts our preconceived views on modern society through his expressive titular setting, William Street. Influenced by his own adjustment to the chaos of a 1930s urbanizing Sydney, the poem, entitled after the notorious Sydney William Street, and subverts the reader's expectations of city life. The opening line, "The red globe of light, the liquor green," employs color symbolism to generate an emotive connection to the otherwise artificiality of the cityscape. Slessor contrasts these neon images with the belief that they go deeper than a stream, and compares them to natural beauty. Here, the poem suggests that it is in these environments in which the heart of the city figuratively beats. In this vivid imagery, prejudice towards individuals involved in escapist lifestyles, alluded to the derogatory slang of "these dips and moles," are lifted. This is further achieved in grace that blesses onions with a hiss. The hyperbole elevates the quality of the personas and our own sensory experience of the culture thriving in the setting. As the persona sifts through the scenes of the city, refrain, "You find this ugly, I find this lovely," echoes throughout the poem. By heightening our sensations, Slessor combats prejudice with our inherent desire to empathize with the challenges faced by those navigating the urban climate. Therefore, Slessor convinces us to reimagine the setting as one that is filled with life and humanity, and to empathize with those struggling within it rather than being prejudiced. So this is directly, as you can see, addressing the question by using the appropriate language and the rubric concepts, right? The chosen quotes actually link really well back to the question and back to the argument, and they're deconstructed well as well. So there's that QTEL every time. The technique matches the effect. Techniques that analyze, and finally, audience impact is sustained throughout. So we'll draw your attention to that. So he subverts readers' expectations of city life. There's audience impact, and not just at the end. Where are we? Here, and our own sensory experiences of the cultural setting. And heightening our sensations. There you go. And finally, reimagine. There we go, us to reimagine. Now, one thing I will add is that with this exemplar, it uses second person. In your essays, I would recommend going against that. So I wouldn't use second person. So avoid using second person. Avoid using us as we as audiences. Just use third person. So audiences take this away, because markers know that you are the audience, you are the reader, you are the viewer. So just I'll highlight that. Okay, writing conclusions. So conclusions, again, they reinforce your judgment on the question and your audience impact, and they can be 1 or 2 sentences long. So we want to summarize the key themes and ideas, and then we want the audience impact linking sentence at the end to put it all together. So here we are. Here's the 2019 question. So, to what extent does the exploration of human experience in I Am Malala invite you to reconsider your understanding of strength? So, as you can see, human qualities and emotions, the key there. And that's because we're looking at the quality of strength. So that's the prescribed focus. And then the question says, reconsider your understanding. So it's already giving you an audience impact. There you are. Gonna get a straight line. Yes. Okay, so let's have a look. Where are we? So here we go. This is the conclusion. Now, one thing that's kind of important with the conclusion is that your essay is not considered complete. So it's not considered sustained until you write that conclusion. So if you're running out of time in an exam, just jot down like a 1 to 2 line conclusion. Literally, just so that, you know, your essay is counted as complete. And you know, so that you're not automatically like pushed down to a band 5 level just because you haven't written a conclusion. So make sure you write a conclusion so that it's a sustained response, and you can still, you know, fight for that band 6 category. So let's have a look at this conclusion though. So in essence, the qualities and emotions that determine our capacity to persevere and remain strong are constantly reassessed in changing contexts. I Am Malala's exploration of knowledge, empowerment, and resilience as key ideas is sustained over the course of the autobiography to transform our understanding of human rights and enable us to connect deeply with her emotional experiences. Ultimately, through studying how Malala as an individual has responded to contemporary issues, we are encouraged to reflect upon our own responsibilities to support others and to strive towards being better people by also embracing the strength within ourselves. So this reiterates our initial judgment. It summarizes the main content of the essay. So these, for example, are the 3 techniques, because it says through the exploration of knowledge, empowerment, and resilience. Oops, almost. All right. And finally, this is the audience impact. What did we actually learn from this? And that's really important. You know, like elaborating on that is super important. So, checklist. Have I made the connections to the rubric? Make sure that you have. Have I addressed the audience impact? Not just at the beginning, at the end, but consistently. I'm going to try it, writing the whole word out. Consistent. There we go. I should like get a touchscreen laptop for the next lecture series, because I've just realized how much I enjoy writing as I'm talking. Not that it's needed for English, really. You know, it's not like math. I quite enjoy it. I don't know. Yeah, I enjoy it. Anyway, so being consistent with your audience impact. Have I responded to all parts of the question? Have I made connections with the composer's context and what they're saying? Really important. Don't forget purpose and form and context. And did I analyze and not just explain? Ask yourself, is my writing telling me something about the text? Like, is it telling me what actually happened in the text, or is it telling me what is shown through the text? What are the ideas of the text? So important that you do that. Okay, we are ready to move on to paper 2 then. So I will give you just a couple of seconds to jot down any questions from that paper 1 revision if you have any. But I'm hoping that I've answered any as we've gone through. Yeah, we're doing well according to time. So let's have a look now at paper 2, and we're gonna go through everything. Just grab a quick sip of water while you guys are doing that. Alrighty, let's have a look. So, paper 2, we've got again 3 sections. So you've got section 1, which is module A. So section 1 includes module A, language, identity, and culture. 20 marks, spending about 40 minutes on this section. Section 2 is close study of literature. Again, another essay, roughly 40 minutes, it's 20 marks. And section 3 is craft of writing. So 20 marks, should spend roughly 40 minutes on this section. So when it comes to approaching the paper, in terms of what Nessa has outlined, here are also some module C times to help. So aim for 40 minutes for each of them, but with mod C, if it's a sorry, give me one sec. Okay, yeah, just got confused with the commas and the hashes. So if it's a 5-15 split, oh no, wrong highlighter to use there, whoops. There we go. If it's a 5-15 split, aim for about 5-15 split, aim for about 10 minutes for the 5 marker and 30 minutes for the writing. 8-12 split, aim for 16 minutes for the 8 marker. That's generally a reflection. And then 12 marks for the writing. If it's a 10-10 split, aim for 20 each. Now, the thing is, if it's a 10-10 split, it's sort of okay to kind of go, I would even say to kind of go like 12 and 28 or something, like that kind of works. But you just have to see what works best for you with writing, because I know when I did my paper in 2021 with mod C, I definitely spent a bit of extra time on the writing than the reflection, but I obviously got everything in, thank God. But yeah, it's definitely spent a bit of extra time on that writing, so just because it needed that bit of extra time. But yeah, so it works if you spend a couple of extra minutes on that. Just make sure that you are that you're sort of focused on that. And sorry, I didn't mean 12:28, because that's wrong, not 12:28. Do not spend 12 minutes on my reflection, definitely spend more. I meant 18 and 22, 18 and 22, that's better. 18 and 22, sorry, just 18 and 22, so like 18 minutes of the reflection and then 22 minutes on the response. Or you could even be like 17 23, that's 17-23, that's okay too. Just see what works for you. But like for 10-10, you can, my main purpose is to say that for 10-10, it's okay if it's like a bit of extra time for the creative or the the writing than the reflection. But here you are, that's a general little formula for you guys. So let's move on then, and let's actually go through each of the modules. So module A, how to study, where to start. Again, start with the rubric. Rubric is key. So start with the rubric. Let me start that. So start with the rubric, then respond to the questions. Then respond to the questions in form of essay plans. Then actually write them under timed conditions. Timed conditions really important. And then finally feedback. Feedback is so important. Get feedback on it. Language, identity, and culture. So let's have a look at the rubric. So language is looking at the system of communication shared and used by a group of people. Identity is a person's conception and expression of their individuality or their affiliation with a group, and culture is a way of life for a particular group of people. So the keys to success here in module A is that there are three key things that you need to do to successfully attack this module. Firstly, you need to have a sustained discussion of the intersection between language, identity, and culture. So don't treat them as separate entities. You have to look at how are all of these three things working together to have an impact. Then you've got to look at least two distinct arguments using themes from the text with sufficient textual evidence, and finally strong audience impact, which linking sentences to evaluate the representation of language identity and culture in your text. So keys to success, there are three things that you need to keep in mind. So what that essentially is that the sustained discussion is so important, because it shows the market that you've actually looked at this intersection between these three things, that you've actually studied the text through that lens that they wanted you to. So remember, we use language to understand and communicate our identity. Our identities together form our cultures, and then we use language as an expression of a culture. So all three of these are working together. And they're not separate to each other. They're all working together, and they're all represented together in text and in society in general. Let's have a look at the second part now. So when it comes to using two distinct arguments using themes from the text with sufficient textual evidence, remember at least two distinct arguments with textual evidence. So you can look at assimilation, inequality, bilingualism, class discrimination, diversity, empowerment, gender, family, inequality, marginalization, multiculturalism, norms, ownership, power, authority, prejudice, race, stereotypes, and status. So you want to make sure that you're using two distinct arguments to actually put it all together. Then finally, when it comes to the audience impact, linking all of that together to evaluate the representation of identity and culture, and pay key attention to the word evaluate here. This is where the audience impact puts everything together. So module A has a single audience impact statement, but with common mod and module B you have to express it in your own ways, and you have to sort of choose which ones how to best express it every time. So here we are. Affirm, ignore, reveal, challenge, or disrupt prevailing assumptions and beliefs. So when you use it, this is like a generic statement, right? When you use it, you'll actually, you may just talk about affirming and disrupting, right? So it affirms and challenges, let's say, these prevailing, and then you say what the assumptions and beliefs are. So you have to make it specific to your writing. So the intersection between language, identity, and culture. Now, even if the question doesn't have one of the above words mentioned, you still need to talk about them. So let's say the question only talks about language and culture, or identity and language. That doesn't mean that you don't talk about the third one. You have to talk about them. So for example, to what extent does language comment on cultural issues in contemporary society? So here we go. So let's have a look. Language provides commentary on the impact of culture through insightful representations of contemporary social issues. This is fine, but you can clearly see that it's missing one really important aspect of the syllabus. So let's have a look at what this one does. Alright, there's already an arrow there. Okay, let's have a look. Language provides commentary on the impact of culture through insightful representation of the contemporary social issues. In turn, audiences are able to re-examine their own views on personal and collective identity. This is the key. So you want to bring all three together. That essentially, within text, not only are these themes interconnected within text, but their interconnection is so important to their portrayal to audiences that they allow us to reflect on our own cultures and language and identity. Okay, let's move on then. So, ultimately, you must be identifying what the composer of your prescribed text has revealed about the link between language, culture, and identity. Argue this consistently through different ideas and themes. If you're at a loss, first ensure you can answer this in at least one way. What is your prescribed text revealing about the link between language, culture, and identity? That's really, really important. Um, because markers are looking at, whether or not you can study all of these different, you can study these different yet interconnected ideas in an interconnected manner. Okay, so why at least one? Well, depending on the unique links between your ideas, arguments, your thesis, which is the answer to the previous question. So this is something that you want to think of. So this question, your thesis should be able to answer this question. So make sure that now you look back at your work and ask yourself, can I answer this question? Is my work linking back to this main idea? So let's have a look. Yeah, so, if obviously based on the question, it can change, but it's so important to obviously plan for different theses. But do you have that one main sort of base thesis that's your interpretation of the text? And then when you get a different question, it's to write a different thesis, but still pertain that original idea that you have, that you think about the text. My key advice for any English subject when it comes to essay writing, and this is the same thing I say in extension, the same thing I say in advanced and standard, is that do not memorize essays. Do not memorize essays, because markers can tell, like they can smell from far away when you've memorized an essay and you're trying to make the question fit your essay rather than making your essay fit the question. Like they can tell. Because what happens is, if you go in with a memorized essay, you're trying to somehow mold the question to your essay, and in that process, you lose sight of the question. And markers can tell that. And the whole, one of the key reasons behind the whole syllabus change in 2019 was to stop people from regurgitating essays. Rather, they wanted people to think on the spot and actually apply their knowledge. So make sure. So the purpose here is not to, encourage you to mold your thesis every time to a question, but it's to sort of help you to think about the fact that you've got your thesis, right? You've got that, initial essay, like that thesis, what you actually think about the text when you first read it and you first, written your first essay. You then want to be able to write to different questions. You want to be able to write different theses to different questions, so that you're not just repeating the same thing, or you're not trying to make the same thesis fit, all these different questions. It's really important that we, that we don't lose sight of that. So let's have a look. Now, studying as let's have a look at exemplar responses. Let's put it all together. Alrighty. Studying language, identity, and culture reveals how language can be used to affirm or challenge our beliefs about ourselves, individuals, and cultural groups. To what extent is this statement true of the prescribed text you've studied for Module 8? So this question is essentially asking you to make a judgment about what your prescribed text is saying about the link between language, identity, and culture. So this bit here, as you can see, is clearly, actually pretty much most of this is taken straight from the rubric. So they're just asking you, to what extent is it true? To what extent does the unity of language, identity, and culture, and the way in which they're shown, reveal how language is, affirming our beliefs, or challenging our beliefs about individual and cultural groups. So let's start off with our first with a topic sentence here. So this is from a body paragraph. Language is a powerful form of expression and can shape self-perception as well as individual and collective identity. This is the link. So this is our link between culture, identity, and that should say language, in relation to the specific argument. However, the loss of language due to government policies has a significant impact on the individual's heritage and culture. Ngilda Tapeo was a victim to the assimilation policy, which resonates with Australia's stolen generation and led her to be separated from her family by Swedish authorities and forced into a boarding school for nomadic children. So, this is a relationship to the composer's concept um, to support our argument, and it shows great textual understanding. So what's really important is that you link your argument to the context. Don't just like put in context for the sake of putting it in. You want to include it only when it fits to the question. So here we are proving our argument through textual analysis and referring back to what is actually revealed to the audience about culture, language, and identity. So Tapio recalls her experiences and alienation by the Swedish language and culture evident in the sibilants. And when I came to the school, it was a shock. I was 7 years old and it was 53. The lessons Tapio attended were in the Swedish language, which furthermore highlights her alienation from the culture she was imposed against. Tapia felt her language was being suppressed. During the lessons, we were not allowed to use Sami language, demonstrating the threats against the Sami culture. Merville's use of contrast effectively communicates the change of the nomadic lifestyle by using an anamorphic lens on the photographs of Sami children in traditional dress, standing outside their teepee homes, illuminating the importance of cultural preservation. Tapia's poem They Lulled Their Children by the Fire, bedtime songs drawn up the smoke hole, the fire warms, is anthropomorphized by motifs of safety and warmth, containing images of fire and coffee, and is complemented with non-diegetic sounds of reindeers galloping and fire crackles. In doing so, Mervada creates a harmonious atmosphere. Poetry plays a significant role in Tapia's beliefs to maintain her language. If you're not going to do anything, then the language is just going to disappear. And despite the obstacles that threaten the Sami culture, Tapia's poetry has helped influence and resurrect the Sami language and culture. So you can see here how we continually draw that link between the individual, between the peer's identity, between the way in which she has used language to preserve the culture, and you can see that link very clearly there. Another really good thing that this analysis does is link back to form. So when it talks about how poetry plays a significant role in Tapia's belief, and also obviously context as well. So finally, we finish with a reiteration of judgment and the audience effect. So language is vital to our identity and shows to the extent of how Mayweather's bilingual documentary encourages a newfound respect for its maintenance. And remember that judgment and audience effect at the end is really important. Okay, looking at Module B then. So, predicting the unpredictable when it comes to Module B. So, Module B can be quite unpredictable because your ultimate aim is to explore the notion of texture integrity. So, this is so important. Module B questions can be pretty specific, they can be pretty general, we don't know. And that's why this is like the only module where the rubric is very sort of laid back, because it wants you to there is a focus, like, you know, it's not like there's no focus, there is a focus, and the focus is just studying the text in its entirety and looking at how looking at the links between texture integrity and the text, if your text has achieved textual significance. So unlike common module and module A, we don't have that, you know, lens through which we're looking at the text. So we don't have the text and human experiences or the language identity and cultural lens. Rather, I'll be just studying the text for what it is. So yeah, it can be a bit unpredictable, but so our audience impact here is that the unity of a text, its coherent use of form and language to produce an integrated whole in terms of meaning and value. Just gonna grab a quick sip. So have a think of that. What is it asking us? Alrighty, so yeah, essentially it's asking us to look at whether the text has any meaning in its entirety, whether it has any meaning and value to us as an audience. So, textual integrity is the unity of a text, its coherent use of form and language to produce an integrated whole. So, it's looking at how form, language, and ideas are all working together. And so, we have to think about what makes a text good, what makes it effective. If you think of a book that you really like, what makes it a good book? Or a film that you really like, what makes it a good film? Or a poem that you really like, what makes it a good poem? And it's usually the form, how it's written, how it works, and the ideas that make it good. And I think film is a good example here because, what makes a good film? Well, if it's directed well, if it's, really compelling, if it's got, really good, let's say, dialogues, because, that's how language features, they're really powerful dialogues and the concept behind it is good. So think of that, these three things working together. What makes it good to study, and will it stand the test of time? That's really important. So all the texts that you're studying in this module, they are texts that are significant, right, and that are standing the test of time. And a big clue of that is the fact that you're studying them now. So think about just make sure when it comes to this, you consider what is a good text, and your own understanding of the text, like your own personal interpretation of the text, is so important in this module. So let's have a look at how we actually sort of approach module B. So for success in module B, here are some things that we have to keep in mind. Firstly, we have to remember that we need to have a sustained discussion of the construction and representation of the text in relation to the question. How has the text been constructed and what does it represent? And that would sort of link back to the question. We want to have at least two distinct arguments using themes from the text with sufficient textual evidence. It's really important. Finally, strong audience impact, which links the sentences, strong audience impact, linking sentences that insightfully address textual integrity. So every time we have to come back to the idea of textual integrity, and you can call it textual significance, you can call it literary merit, you can call it literary value, whatever you like. So you can use those words interchangeably, and it's good to use them interchangeably as well. So construction and representation in the question. Module B requires you to have a strong judgment on how a specified aspect of the text contributes to its lasting impact. So this is where, like we said earlier, you can be asked like a very text-specific question or a very generic question. So we have to make sure that we know the text in detail, that you've read it in detail, that you have an opinion on the text. That's really important. So you can get a form-based question, which can ask you how has a prescribed text effectively transformed genre conventions to represent key ideas. And this is focusing specifically on, its macro construction, let's say. Then you can get character-based questions as well. So to what extent has the protagonist informed your understanding of your prescribed text as a whole? So when you get character-based questions, it doesn't mean that you just talk about one character the whole. Let's say you obviously bring in other characters to distinguish as well, but like it's based on your understanding of a character and how the character links to form, language, and ideas. Thematic based questions, these are very, very common. So discuss the ways your prescribed text has represented the notion of choice. And finally, audience based, evaluate how your prescribed text has significantly challenged audience assumptions. That's super important. And you can get text that, so you can see like how it's like super specific here. So specific, and it kind of goes down to more like a generalized path. So you can get super specific questions or you can get generic questions. We don't know. And that's why you need to have a really good understanding of the text as a whole, have really solid ideas of the text as a whole, and be well prepared to mold your analysis accordingly. So let's have a look at, yeah, you can also get questions which actually combine multiple aspects. For example, how is form used to represent a certain theme in your text? How is form used? How is the um, how is form used to represent the theme of identity, or rather belonging, let's say, to reconsider your understanding of belonging in the text. So you can get those questions, unfortunately. Um, let's have a look then at the macro techniques of the text, the form related techniques. So you obviously want to know form related. You obviously want to know form related techniques. So characterization, setting, soliloquies, motives, costuming, structure of the text. So that's three-part structure. So it's also called tripartite structure. So, for example, in Common Mod, if you study 1984, that's a tripartite structure. Um, there we go. Yeah, definitely looking at like a touchscreen laptop for next year. Or I can just use my iPad. There we go. Tripartite structure, diary format, poem, rhyme, scheme, structure, etc. So always important that you know your form. So think about how form and language are used together to construct meaning, and how well your composer achieves this meaning will inform the text's enduring value. So this is really important. Keyword here, enduring relevance. And this is where we look at what is the impact of the text on both contemporary and contextual audiences. So contemporary audiences is us, people who are reading the text now. There you go. And then contextual audiences. Contextual audiences are people like who read the text when the text first came out. So like the contextual audiences. I'm just gonna write context and leave it at that. There we go. And we'll put the little verses here so you know that it's looking at the impact on contemporary versus contextual audiences. And finally, textual integrity of the text. That is going to inform the textual integrity of the text. And because the text can only have an enduring value if all the elements of the text are working together. So think of a movie or a book or a film, same thing, or like a text that you do not like. And the reason you may not like could be one of the three. Think of a bad film that you watched. Let's use film. Think of it like a really bad movie that you watched. You may not have liked because the dialogues were not very good. Let's say they were cheesy, like they were not very good dialogues. So that's language features were not good. They do not work together. Or you just do not like the plot. You do not like the ideas. Or the film wasn't directed well, or you felt like it wasn't directed well, like it was too slow, too fast, whatever. It didn't make sense. The first half was better than the second half or something, right? And that shows you that a text will not have an enduring value, that it will not be significant if there's something wrong with the form, if there's something not working with the language features, or if the ideas themselves are not good. And so that tells us that textual integrity, textual significance is only achieved when a text is working, when form, language, and ideas are working together to have a meaning. Okay, so let's have a look at a question. So revising module B. So this is from 2019. This is from the 2019 paper. So, literature reinforces or challenges our understanding of ordinary situations. Discuss the statement, making detailed reference to a prescribed text. So, the type here essentially is the fact that it's a thematic audience-based question. So, thematic, it reinforces or challenges our understanding of ordinary situations. I'm going to switch to a highlighter here. Should we stick with blue? Let's go green. Okay, so this is a theme here, ordinary situations. So when you get a theme-based question, use that theme as an overarching idea to link like your pre-prepared 3 themes to. And I would always recommend 3 themes. Module B, always 3 paragraphs. 3 paragraphs are super important. I would not recommend two, just because there's so much you have to actually write. Oh, those dots are looking really good. Look at that. That's like the actual like type dots. Okay. Alright, where was I? um yeah, three themes, really important. So you want to link each of your three themes back to the big overarching idea of ordinary situations. And it's audience based. It challenges our understanding, reinforces challenges our understanding, and that's, audience based. Prescribed focus is ordinary situations, as you can see here. There you go. Audience impact is challenges our understanding. There we go. And we won't quite worry about a rubric focus here because we've sort of spoken about how the rubric is, essentially like studying the text in a lot of detail. So don't worry about that. Just focus on prescribed focus and audience impact. And a theme that, for example, we can focus on here in the next body paragraph that we'll talk about is family. So you'll have three themes. But the theme that we'll talk about next in the next slide is family. So make sure that you don't use two. Always go for three. Just because mod B, there's a lot of writing to do to prove the fact that the text has achieved textual significance. So here we go. This is let's have a look at this exemplar. So Haddon's novel illustrates that the ideal of a normal family is an unattainable goal, harnessing the unconventional style of the novel to highlight the connections that arise from abnormal family life. Christopher's relationship with his mother is strained, as indicated by her letters, in lieu of physical presence in his family, repeatedly beginning with "Dear Christopher." By exploring their relationship through the epistolary forms, that's letters. Let me just highlight that. So we can see how they immediately bring in form. Really important. And Haddon reveals the inadequacy that Judy feels while still wanting to connect with him, with a bittersweet tone in "I am sorry, Christopher, but I still love you." This allows the reader to understand the complexity of family relationships and challenges their perceptions on what ordinary truly means. However, Haddon also reveals that despite the strain that they cause, tense family relationships can hold emotional significance. Christopher describes an apologetic moment with his father. "We made our fingers and thumbs touch each other." The comforting tactile imagery, language feature, combined with Christopher's narration, form feature, reveals his supposedly abnormal attention to physical sensation, revealing how family relationships outside of what may be perceived as ordinary can still thrive. The unique narrative style of Curious Incident reflects the Boone family's situation, which, despite or because of its uniqueness, explores deep interpersonal connections that extend towards having a lasting, meaningful impact on readers today. And that's looking at contemporary audiences, readers today's contemporary audience. So this is a really good response because you can see how it constantly links form to language to showcase how it portrays a specific idea, and that's textual significance, and it does that for each of the piece of evidence, and then it links back to contemporary audiences and contextual audiences. Really, really important. So we are answering the question by integrating the keywords. We are giving quotes a technique that actually relate back to the idea of ordinariness in relation to home, and we're incorporating textual integrity here, lasting impact, ongoing significance, and value of the text. Remember, in your writing, when you bring in that connection between form, language to show how it's having a certain impact, that is showing textual integrity. And then you couple that with words like, textual integrity, textual merit. You've done a good job. Okay, let's move on then. So, audience impact and texture integrity. Here are some possible expressions to help explore texture integrity. Sorry about that. To explore texture integrity without, continuously saying texture integrity the whole essay, because that can be jarring. So use words like enduring value, ongoing relevance, timelessness, universality of the text. The text transcends time and space, lasting impact, continual significance, persisting influence, literary value, literary merit, and so on. Those words can be really good. Okay, so audience impact. Having texture integrity helps you link back to the question module correctly. So, for example, here, thus the past continues to have a lasting impact on readers by evoking empathy towards the intergenerational trauma that Aboriginal people face today. It is evident that Anderson's portrayal of consumerism will have ongoing relevance for readers, as it will turn, as readers will turn to its cautionary message. So you can see that there. And finally, therefore, V's exploration of the distortion of reality transcends time and space by continuing to raise awareness in audiences towards problematic aspects of technology. So, transcends time and space. So, make sure that you are using these key terms in your audience impact statements. So, sample essay plan table. So, if you get a form-based question, here's how I'd recommend to structure your response. Now, one really important thing is that you obviously will go in with your, you don't want to go in with a pre-prepared essay, but you want to go in knowing your analysis and your quotes. You want to go in prepared with your quotes and analysis, right? So, when you go in and let's say you get a form question, so you want to link that analysis back to form. You don't have to change anything on the day. You just have to link. You just have to mold and link. So here's how you would do it. If it's a form-based question, link your body, like make your body paragraphs about like form technique each time. Then if it's character-based, link it on character 1, character 2, and character 3. And each time, at least 3 quotes. And sorry, body paragraph 3 can be character 1 plus 2. Or you could even bring in a third one. That works as well. But 3 quotes, 3 pieces of evidence, really important. At least in module B. I would definitely even go to say 4, but 3 is the minimum. Theme based, you guys are probably already very familiar with this one. You just base each paragraph on a theme, and then introduction and audience based, also do it on theme. Don't do it on audience, do it on theme, but then link in audiences every time. So that's really, really important. Okay, we are ready to start going through Module C now. So please ask if you have any questions so far, but hopefully everything is pretty self-explanatory. And obviously I've hopefully answered questions as we're going along. Let me just have a quick sip. Okay, let's have a look then. So, revising Module C. Now, keys to success when it comes to Module C is, remember, every piece of writing is different. There's no one formula for success in Module C, but there are definitely elements that you can utilize, in Module C to write a good piece of writing. So there are general things that we have to remember when it comes to, creative responses. So let's start with creative responses, and then we'll also discuss discursive as well. Now, with persuasive and informative, persuasive is mentioned in questions, informative not so much. So I would definitely recommend practicing creatives and discursives the most. Some persuasive and informative just in case, but it's not, we haven't quite seen it being emphasized in questions in the HSC, but it's obviously there in the syllabus. So let's have a look. Every piece of writing is different, but here's some general tips. Firstly, meet the stimulus or the question requirements with flair and skill. So don't ever, so it's really important to not literally interpret the stimuli. Always make sure that you are looking at it figuratively, and that's where flair comes in. Layers of meaning are created through using language forms and features that are inspired by a Module C text. So having that layered work is really, really important. Because it showcases that, skillful expertise. And finally, engaging ideas and perspectives shared to leave a lasting impact on audiences is really important. So always make sure that with your Module C text, you have a purpose. That's not just, writing for the sake of it, but there's a purpose. There's something you're trying to achieve through your writing, and that's what you talk about in your reflection. So let's say your purpose is to evoke a certain response, or your purpose is to bring something to light, to bring the importance of a certain issue to light. So make sure that you have a purpose behind your writing. Now, expose yourself to as many different questions as possible. Best way to prepare for Module C. Really, yeah, best way to prepare for Module C is to expose yourself to as many questions as possible. This will help you to not be completely blindsided by any questions. And yeah, like essentially, because you'll feel confident. Really, that's the key thing with this. You'll feel confident, and it will help you because if you've got like pre-existing plots and thesis, you only have to you'll know how to tweak them. So here you can say, we say pre-existing plots or thesis. Again, don't go in with a fully prepared piece. I recommend always having like a pre-existing plot that you like writing about, or an idea, or a character, or a storyline that you like writing about, and then adapt that to the question on the day. So let us have a look at this example. So this is from the 2019 paper. So let's have a look. They wanted us to create a piece of imaginative, discursive, or persuasive writing that ends with the provided image. So our aim is to compose a creative piece. Let's say we're going to choose creative. Restriction is that it has to end with this specific image. And audience impact can be to describe and present the nature of closure in a new light. So audience impact is what you choose to achieve through your piece as a writer. So this is what the example that we're just going to look at in a second wants to do, is to describe and present the nature of closure in a new light. Your purpose when you create a response to that will be different, but make sure that there's an audience impact that you want to have, that you have authorial intent that you want to achieve. So let's have a look. This was how I stopped running around and how I finally began coming around. When I found closure, it was far from the end. It was a new chapter, a new 5 years ahead, a new future. It was the first of countless nights of sleep. It was meeting halfway, leaving without the desire to turn around. It was the beginning, ending, beginning, and every other opening and closing possible. It was realizing that I no longer needed to run, that I could stand in that alleyway and consume the colors before they could me. It was learning to venture into the unknown and embrace my greater fear of the unknowable. The answer was the question, and the silence was the symphony. I'd finally found what I'd been looking for. I knew the eyes of fate would continue to follow me, but I mustered up all the courage I had and walked away. So this is a band 6 response because it meets the requirements of the question. It ends with a piece. And the eyes of fate is like sort of seen in that image. It's like metaphor. Writing that leads up to the ending is natural, it's organic, and the personal voice can be seen. From the very beginning, this is how I stopped running and how I finally began coming around. I really like that it was the beginning, ending, beginning, and every other opening and closing possible. Like it's written very interestingly as well. So it's very metaphorical, and it uses language forms and features really nicely. So, engaging ideas and perspective shared. So you determine the audience impact in Module C. These are suggested by the rubric, but you should also consider your purpose as a writer and what your piece actually aims to do. So let's have a look. Audience impact. Describe the world around them. To evoke emotion, to share a perspective, or to share a vision. So what's really important here is that you don't forget about an audience impact in all pieces of writing, for creative, for discursive, for persuasive. And if you don't have an audience impact, like a tangible audience impact that is seen and like subtly expressed through your writing, you won't have your reflection, like you won't have much to talk about in your reflection, won't be as powerful, because essentially your reflection is your way of selling your work, right? It's saying that this is what I've done, I've thought about all of these language features, I've been inspired by my prescribed text to have to write in this certain way. So make sure that you're doing that. Okay, revising for Module C, reflection plans. So if you get let's have a look. So alrighty, so if it's a 5 marker reflection, Just have feature one, which can be a technique, and then which is like it can be a technique or it can be a thematic feature, but I always recommend going with techniques. So technique, and then you have to talk about your prescribed text, how your prescribed text use that technique. So one quote from your prescribed text, and then two quotes from your own text. Now the key to your essentially the key to your reflections is like most of your marks are coming from your own writing, from your analysis of your own writing. That's where the bulk of your marks are coming from. So you need to make sure you actually deconstruct your writing in the same way that you've deconstructed, um, all the analysis that you've done in the previous module. So the same thing, quote technique, effect link, that's where you get your marks from, because it shows the marker that you've used the technique to have a certain effect, to achieve a certain purpose. So yeah, so that's for, so for one, so that's one technique from the prescribed text and one from your own text. For 8 marker, same thing. And then for 10 markers, for 10 markers, I would recommend this technique here. I would recommend this structure. So so essentially you're doing 2 paragraphs. So you're doing 2 on, you're doing 2 paragraphs, 1 on each feature. Actually, no, sorry, not this one. I meant this one. Sorry, you're doing 2 features. Whoops. Give me 1 sec. Let me rub that out. So, the difference here is, the difference here is that with this, you're using 2 prescribed text. So the reason I wouldn't, unless now the question can ask you to do 2 prescribed text, potentially it hasn't done that yet. I don't think any of the questions have done that in standard yet, definitely not in advanced, but they can ask you to do it. But generically it's only 1, so this is the one that you'd follow most of the time. If it's a 10 marker, just do 1 prescribed text but then 2 paragraphs, right? So in each paragraph you want to talk about the 2 techniques. Each paragraph you want to base each paragraph on like a technique each, and then in each one talk about the prescribed text, influence, and then link to your own examples. So I would say to have 1 quote from your prescribed text in the paragraph and then 2 from your own. So that would mean you've got 3 quotes in each of the body paragraphs. If they ask you to do 2 prescribed text, then you follow this structure. You make the first body paragraph on text 1 and then you make it the second one on text 2. And then obviously you have a conclusion and intro. In your introduction for your reflection, make sure you mention the prescribed text, full name of the author, and then the text, and what techniques, or how you borrowed from the text, how you have borrowed from the text. Okay, moving on. Sorry, I think that's just 2 slides. This. Okay, so an easy way to remember how many examples to include is marks divided by 2 plus 1. And that can help you. But the way I like to remember it is, especially for like 10 marks, you just go 1 quote from a prescribed text per paragraph, and then 2 from your own. So that way it's like 3 per paragraph, so you're doing 6 quotes altogether. Okay, exam review. Let's have a look at some last tips and tricks before the exam. So please ask questions. Ask away. If there's anything I can help out with, ask away. Let me just grab a quick sip. I'm gonna close this lid. There we go. Okay, let's have a look. So, what if I haven't started practice responses yet? Never too late. It's definitely a bit time tricky, but it's never too late. You don't want to like not do it at all now because you haven't started early. Please do them, and here is a technique to help you. You can see that quote, how precise that is. But anyways, and you know what the best thing about doing timed responses is that even if you do it like paper, even if you do, let's say, just 1 question, right? It's 40 minutes. It's not even an hour. So you're done and over with 40 minutes, and it feels so good when you finish it. So even if you just start off by doing 1, then doing 2, and just doing that, like not doing the whole paper in 1 sitting, if you're just starting, that's okay. As long as you do something, right? Something's better than nothing. So start off with like doing it open book, so have your notes. So with notes I mean like have your quotes and your analysis, and then do it untimed. Then do it closed booked and untimed. Then do it open booked and timed. Then closed book and timed. So even if you like, yeah, even if you don't now, like you haven't started, so I wouldn't recommend jumping straight into doing like a 3-hour paper, because that's going to be really hard. Or not a 3-hour paper, sorry, 2-hour paper if you're doing paper 2, like as a whole. I would recommend doing them individually, right? So if you haven't started practicing yet, so just do them individually, 40 minutes each, and that will really help you. And then just a couple of days before the exam, do it all together. Do it like a 2-hour sitting paper. But if you have been practicing consistently, then now is a good time to start doing it all together, doing it for 2 hours. Start memorizing now. So that's not essays. I'm actually going to write that. Not your essays. Do not memorize essays, please. That is not what we recommend at all. There we go. Memorize your quotes, your analysis. Quotes. Am I gonna write analysis down? I don't know. Quotes plus, let's do it. Oh, that's not a plus. Where are we? I'm gonna rub that out. Here you go. So do not memorize essays. Please make sure that you're not memorizing essays, because like I said, if you memorize essays, your entire focus shifts to making the question fit your essay and not the other way around, and that is not what we want, because markers can tell when you are trying to fit in your pre-written essay or when you're actually answering the question. So make sure you answer the question, and so memorize your quotes and analysis. Do not memorize essays. Okay, let's go on then. So yeah, what if you get a mental blank during the exam? Remember, rubrics are really good friend. Go back to your rubric. Think about the rubric. Think about ideas. So if you get a wacky quote or a really obscure question, take a moment to breathe. Break it down using that rubric focus, prescribed focus, audience impact formula. Consider how the question works with your understanding of each module. Deconstruct the question using the steps that we've gone through today to address exactly what it's asking you to address. Now, other tips. Study with friends. You can do that in real time or FaceTime, but that's only if you don't get like distracted by each other. If you do, maybe not the best way to go. Change up your study space if you are finding it like, hard to focus now. Take regular breaks. Do not leave studying subjects for other subjects to the night before. It's easy to do, but like plan it out so that you're not studying for any subject before the night. I always recommend like the night before the exam, do not study for that subject. Like maybe do it till the evening, like 4 or 5 o'clock, 6, 7 at the most, but do not recommend doing it like after that. Or that's what worked for me. Like I don't know a lot of other people. So do not study the night before. Relax, do something else, read a book, or probably most of you may not want to do that the night before, if you're not active readers. So maybe watch a movie, watch a TV show, just something. But obviously make sure you go to bed on time. Do not binge watch until 2 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, that's really important. Create a checklist of what needs to be done and highlight areas of subjects that you're unfamiliar with. This is really like something that worked for me personally, was like making checklists and to-do lists. Like timetables never worked, because I was the type of person who'd be like, if I do not start at exactly 0 o'clock, I just threw me off. It just threw me off, and then I would like not follow it at all. So yeah, so checklist worked for me much better. Something else that you definitely want to do, like in terms of prioritizing, is following what we call the traffic light. The traffic light system. The traffic light system. So you start off by highlighting things that are, so essentially you take 3 highlighters, red, green, and yellow. If you don't have a red highlighter, pink does as well. So red, pink, green, yellow. Highlight things that you're like not, and this kind of works better for your STEM subjects where you've got like more detailed rubrics than for English. But things that are not very clear, like that, for example, if you get a question on it, you'll be like, I don't know what to do. Highlight them pink or red. Things that you kind of like, okay, I'll be able to scrape some marks on a question, highlight them yellow. And things that you're like, I wish the whole paper was on this topic, highlight that green. So then you go back and you start off by revising parts that are red or pink. And then you go on to parts that are yellow. And then if you've got time at the end, just go back and quickly revise the green stuff. And that way, you are like prioritizing the syllabus, and you're prioritizing just making sure you know everything. Now, before the exam, plan your day. Make sure you get everything ready in advance of the exam. You don't want to realize the night before that you don't know where you need to go on the days, like the rooms and stuff. Have the materials that you're going to bring in prepped at least the night before. So plastic sleeve of, let's say, a couple of pens, or like a sandwich bag, the plastic clear wrap ones, clear water bottle, right? Get a good night's sleep. And also, if you get to the night before and you still don't feel, like you've covered everything, cramming and like staying up will not help. So I've done this. I wanna usually, like, not before the HSC, but rather I've done it before, like, a class exam, a math exam actually. Did not help at all the next day in the math exam. I was very, just because I need my sleep. My brain here does not work if it's not running on 7 to 8 hours sleep. So next morning for my, I think it was either year 11 or 12. I think it was year 11 actually. Did not work the next morning because I stayed up doing like mathematics questions because I was like, I need to get this right, and those questions were a bit tough. So I was like, I need to get this right. So get a good night's sleep. What it is, right? It's just breathe it out and just go sleep. That's gonna help next day more than like staying up and cramming. On the day of the exam, have a good breakfast. Eat something that'll sustain you. Sugar and caffeine can leave you feeling a bit jittery or panicked. And cup of coffee is not enough. Also keep your water up. Arrive in good time. I used to arrive like half an hour or so early and just sit there and read. But then I would and I'd personally like to like stay away from the main area where people would like group up and talk. That did not help me. I mean, generally, I hated that pre-exam talk. I could not do that. But it's like, oh, what did you study? How's that going? Made me so nervous. So I was like, no, I'd like let's just sit separately, and I would just sit and read somewhere where I just find space and quiet. So do that. Like, don't have that pre-exam talk. Like, until you're like relaxed and you're happy to have that talk, fine. But if you're like nervous and you're sort of trying to figure out what everyone else did to like make yourself feel better, wouldn't quite recommend it. Go to the bathroom before the exam. Really important. Avoid panic talk. There you go. Reading notes. Actually, I read notes sometimes. It was like usually, I think it was before my PDHP exam. I read my notes because it's like very syllabus oriented. The rest of them not quite. Music is pretty good as well. And reading, like for me, reading personally worked. Remember, whatever happens, you have done so well. You've gotten through this amazing year. You've done so well. So yes, there could be a bit of disappointment, but it's not the end of the world. You're so much bigger than the HSC, and you're all going to smash it. So just do your best. And if there is an instance or something where it doesn't go as well as you expected, don't let it, distract you for the rest of the HSC. Something happens, let it happen, move on, and you guys will smash it out. So thank you guys so much for coming to today's lecture. I wish you all the very best. Good luck. It's going to be over soon. You're going to have an amazing summer afterwards. Enjoy yourselves. Make the most of this time. And whatever happens, happens. Smash it out. Enjoy.